Hi and welcome back to Honest Reviews. In this video, I'm going to be doing an updated 2020 large capacity USB-C power bank comparison. I'm going to be testing their capacity to find out what their actual capacity is, and we're going to find out which one is the best value for your money. Now, before I get started, I just want to let you know that I've kind of broken up this video into a bunch of different sections, so make sure to check the timestamps in the description or along that little play bar so you can jump to the part that you might be interested in. You'll also find links to all of the power banks and accessories that I mentioned in this video in the description. Okay, so the brands that we're looking at today are Anker, pretty well-known brand for power banks, Luxtude, which you might not have heard of, POWERADD, and RAVPOWER. I would say the probably most well-known ones are RAVPOWER and Anker, but these are also not bad brands. Okay, a couple important details before we get started. All the power banks that I'm looking at today are rated for 26,800 milliamps. That is in the 100 watt hour range, which is the largest size that you are allowed to take on an airplane. They vary a little bit, like from 94 watt hours to like 97 watt hours, so they're not all like right at 100 watt hours. Another important detail about all of these power banks is that they all feature a USB-C power delivery output port. Now, the reason why that's important, especially for these large capacity power banks, is that USB-C is what's going to allow these power banks to recharge quickly. If you're not using USB-C and you're just using like micro USB to recharge a power bank this large, it could take you like 24 hours. But with USB-C, depending on the wattage of the power bank, you're looking at like 4 to 2.5 hours to recharge a full power bank like this. So even if you don't have any USB-C devices that you might want to, charge portably, it's still valuable to get a USB-C power bank in this size just in order to have that fast recharging ability. Now, I've mentioned USB-C. All of these power banks are USB-C PD. That means power delivery. And you can have USB-C power banks that don't deliver at that power delivery standard, and you're not going to get like fast charging or fast recharging. With the power delivery, you're going to get 18 watts, 30 watts, 45 watts, 60 watts, the higher wattage recharging. That's what you are going to get when you have like that power delivery standard. Finally, for reference, in terms of what you can expect these large capacity power banks to recharge, if you have a Nintendo Switch, they're going to recharge a Nintendo Switch about 4 to 6 times. They're going to recharge your average smartphone about 5 to 6 times, an iPad Pro about 2 times, and a MacBook about once. Okay, let's get into a bit of a comparison for how these are all kind of similar, just before we kind of dig into the details. So first, as you can see, they're all black. Not a big surprise there. And then they all have like a button that you can press to indicate the charge level that's left in the power bank. We have 2 here that have aluminum casings, and then we have 2 here that have plastic casings. And just by coincidence, the 2 that have plastic casings, they also have a input for micro USB. Otherwise, all of the power banks have 2 USB-A inputs. Those are the kind of the typical USB cord that you might recognize. And then they all have a single USB-C power delivery port. Okay, now I'm going to go through each of these power banks kind of one by one and give you the kind of details about them. So the first one that I'm going to talk about here is this Anker one. So it's an Anker Powercore Plus. As you can see, we have 2 USB-A ports and 1 USB-C port. So the USB-C port is what you're going to be using to recharge the power bank. And it's also going to be what you're using to recharge your Nintendo Switch or your iPad Pro or whatever your USB-C device is. And then of course we have the single button, and on the button, when you press it, there's kind of, I don't know, maybe 10 little dots that light up to show you the capacity that's remaining available for this power bank. Like I mentioned, 26,800 milliamp hours. It delivers 45 watts for power delivery, so that's quite high. It comes with a 60 watt charger. It can't recharge at 60 watts. It's only going to recharge at a maximum of like 45 watts. But it also comes with that charger, and it comes with a USB-C to USB-C cable. Now, like I mentioned, this one has like an aluminum enclosure. Feels pretty nice, like the build quality and durability of it seems quite good. Until recently, this was Anker's, I think, like flagship battery pack in terms of like having the largest capacity and being able to recharge the fastest, like 45 watts, and with the 60 watt charger. But they did introduce a new model. I was on their website yesterday, and it's like a 25,100 milliamp hour, so like slightly smaller capacity, but it's able to do 65 watts power delivery, and it comes with a 60 watt charger. So that power bank, I think, will be their new flagship. I haven't been able to get my hands on it because it's not available in Canada right now, but look for a review of that one in the future. Now, in terms of the popularity of this one, it is quite popular. 4.7 stars out of 5 with 856 reviews on Amazon. So a lot of people like this one. Now, the price on this one ranges from about $120 to $140, and that makes this one the most expensive out of the ones that we're going to be reviewing today. Okay, moving on to Luxtude. So this to me feels like quite a similar power bank to the Anker one. We have an aluminum enclosure. We have a button that we press, and there's there's 4 lights that light up to show us the capacity. And then we have 2 USB-A ports right here, and then 1 USB-C port right in the middle there. So the specifications for this Luxtude power bank are pretty much identical compared to the Anker one. So again, aluminum enclosure, number of ports. This one also does 45 watt power delivery, and it comes with a 60 watt power delivery charger, and also a USB-C to USB-C cable. Now this one only has 4.4 stars out of 5 with 110 reviews on Amazon, so it doesn't have as high a rating or as many reviews. But personally, I have used this one over the last year as kind of like my main large capacity power bank, and it's worked really well. The price ranges on this one from $70 to $100, so I feel like it, for the same specifications as the Anker, it offers really great value. Now, one note about this is that on Amazon.com, I didn't see a lot of stock for this, so you might have a bit of a difficult time like getting your hands on this one. If you're in Canada, you might be a little bit more lucky because it does seem like it's in stock more in Canada. Okay, the next one is the POWERADD. So this one, like all of them, button to press, 4 LEDs, it's going to tell you what the capacity is. If you look at the ports here, we have 2 USB-A, and then we have the USB-C with power delivery, and then we have a input for micro USB. So for this one, you can charge it through either the USB-C power delivery port or the micro USB, though I would not recommend charging it through micro USB unless you absolutely have to, because that's going to take forever to charge it. And then this one has a plastic body, seems pretty good build quality. Okay, so as you guessed it, the capacity for this one is 26,800 milliamp hours. It has a 30 watt power delivery standard, so not as high as these two. These ones are both 45. This one is 30 watts. You're not going to have a problem like charging your iPad or like the smaller MacBook or your Nintendo Switch, or fast charging your iPhone or anything like that, because they all draw less than 30 watts. Actually, the MacBook draws about 30 watts. So this one is still quite suitable, even though it is only that 30 watt power delivery standard. Now, the thing about this one is that it does not come with a charger, a bundled charger, and it does not come with any USB-C to USB-C cable. So you're gonna have to pay extra for that. But if you're looking for a USB-C charger for this, you're probably only gonna spend maybe like 18 to 20 bucks. You might not need a USB-C charger because whatever device you have, like your Nintendo Switch or your MacBook, you could use to charge this through USB-C. Now, this charger has 4.9 out of 5 stars on Amazon with 50 reviews. So it's, seems like a small number of people like it a lot. And the reason they probably like this is because of the price. The price range on this is from about $43 to $50, which makes this the most affordable charger out of this bunch. And even if you have to add a USB-C charger, you're still looking at it being, like a more affordable option than even this Luxtude one here. Okay, finally, the last one, the RAVPOWER. Again, starting off, button, lights up with capacity, and then very similar to the POWERADD, we have all the same ports, 2 USB-A ports, and then a USB-C power delivery port here, and a micro USB input for very slow charging. So, you can charge it from micro USB or USB-C, but again, recommend the USB-C for recharging. Actually, this charger and the POWERADD they're again pretty much the same for specs. So this one, 26,800 milliamp hours, 30 watt power delivery. It doesn't come with a charger, but it does come with a USB-C to USB-C cable. So you might save yourself a couple bucks there if you need a USB-C to USB-C cable. This one is really well reviewed, 4.6 stars out of 5 with like 1,675 reviews. So a lot of people like this one. You may have difficulty finding stock for this one. I think it was out of stock on Amazon.com. This one goes for pretty much a steady $60. There doesn't seem to be much variation in range for price. So I mentioned that these two do not come with a USB-C charger. So if you want to grab one, make sure to check the link in the description. I'll link to like a 30 watt USB-C charger that you could use. Okay, let's talk about capacity and testing capacity. So what I do to test all of these power banks is when I get them, I use this. This is called a dummy load. And this basically just creates a bunch of heat and there's a little bit of fan on there. It drains the power bank so that it is completely empty. Then I use this device. It's basically like a USB-C multimeter. And what this device tells me is it tells me what these are recharging at, so I can tell how quickly they recharge. And it also tells me the length of time that it takes to recharge each power bank. And this tells me what the watt hours are for completely draining the power bank. How much actual charge was it able to deliver before it just shut off? So let's get into the details of how these all performed. So starting with the Anker, this one tested at 88.9% of the tested capacity. Now last year we tested a older model of this one, like the 30 watt model, and this one this year actually tested a couple percent higher than that other model. This one is testing the highest actual capacity out of all of these, and we'll get to these in a second, but 88.9%, that's quite high. Now, one kind of downer is that this is a 45 watt power delivery power bank. I would hope that it would charge at around 45 watts, but when I was testing it, it only charged at 39 watts. And that means that it took 3 hours and 8 minutes to recharge. It should have probably recharged a little bit faster than that, but I mean 3 hours and 8 minutes, that's still quite fast. Okay, moving on to the Luxtude. Now, what I want to mention is that this is the same power bank that I tested last year. These three here are new. This one I have been using for the past year, which is kind of handy because we're going to be able to see, well, how much has the battery declined, because I have that data from last year. So testing it this year, the tested capacity is 78.3% of the stated capacity. So it's down about 2% from when I first got it brand new last year, which is, I would say that's like an acceptable amount to kind of deteriorate. What's interesting is that this one is rated for 45 watts, but it actually recharged at 49 watts, so even faster than rated. That means that it was able to recharge this whole power bank in just 2 hours and 29 minutes consistently. Okay, the POWERADD. This one tested at 84.6% of the stated capacity. It charged at 29.06 watts. This one is, as you might remember, rated for 30 watts. So it pretty much charged at the full wattage. And it took 4 hours and 23 minutes to recharge from empty. Finally, the RAVPOWER. This one tested at 81.44% of stated capacity. And what's interesting is that this isn't the same model as the one that I used last year. I mean, it's the same specifications and everything, and it tested pretty much identically. This one recharges at 31.97 watts, so that's a little bit higher than the stated 30 watts. It took 3 hours and 27 minutes to recharge this one from empty. Now, this one took 4 hours and 23 minutes to recharge. This one took 3 hours and 27 minutes to recharge, but they were recharging at about the same wattage. Not really sure what's going on there. Maybe it's possible this one slows down the wattage charging. I know that this one actually has 99.16 watt hours, whereas this one has 97.284 watt hours. This one actually did kind of charge a little bit more, but that does seem like a bit of a discrepancy in terms of how long each one should take to charge. So of all the tested capacity, yes, this one was quite high. Yes, this one dropped, below 80, but that's because it's over a year old. I think that they're all in a completely reasonable range. I feel a little less concerned about the actual tested capacity now, because I think that different companies are provisioning the battery so that it's not completely empty, so that it doesn't destroy the battery life. So, having these be in the range of like 80%, I think is totally reasonable. And it's not really something that you're going to have to be too worried about, especially when you're getting these like really large capacity power banks. You're not worried that you're not going to have enough to like recharge your device. Now, one thing that I want to bring up that was kind of brought up in the last review is heat dissipation for plastic versus aluminum. So while these were recharging, I did use a laser thermometer to test their temperature while they were recharging. Now, the aluminum body definitely does a better job of dissipating heat. When they're recharging at the higher wattage, what I was finding is that these were getting to be about 30 degrees Celsius or about 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think is pretty acceptable, like cool range. I know you don't want them to get too hot because that kind of ruins the life of the batteries. So even though these are the higher wattage, that's pretty cool. Now for the plastic bodies here, the RAVPOWER and the POWERADD, these ones only recharging at 30 watts. So not as high power recharging, lower power recharging, but with the plastic bodies, what I was finding was that these ones kind of had a range of about 40 to 50 degrees Celsius or about 102 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So the aluminum body definitely makes a difference in terms of dissipating that heat. Whether or not, that is really detrimental to the lifespan of the batteries in terms of these ones recharging at 50 degrees, about 50 degrees as a max, like at the hottest part when you're feeling it, usually like right by where it connects, or 122 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know if that really makes that big a difference. We're not talking about it getting, to like 60, 70, 100 degrees Celsius. I think that it's probably within like an acceptable range. But I'm not totally sure. I know that the aluminum ones do a better job of dissipating the heat. I guess overall though, like from a safety concern, none of these are getting to a point where it's like too hot to touch or anything like that. Like you can very comfortably touch these when they're at their hottest. It's not a big deal. Okay, so when it comes down to which one of these is the smart buy, I've used this one for the last year and it's like really nice. I like using this one. It like the build quality feels really nice. It feels like it's a really good power bank. It's performed really well. I like how fast it recharges. I feel like between these two, having pretty much the same specs, it seems to me like this is the way to go because this is cheaper. Again, they're both 45 watts. They both come with a 60-watt charger. They both come with USB-C cables. Anker is a better known brand and it tested higher for capacity, but for the value of this one being cheaper, I would go with this one still. Overall though, I think the best value is probably this POWERADD one. This one being only like $43 to $50 compared to, this one 70 to 100 or this one 120 to 140. Like, you can get two of these power banks and yeah, it only has 30-watt power delivery. It's not 45 or 45. But I think that 30 watts is kind of more than enough for things like recharging your Nintendo Switch or your iPad or slow charging like a MacBook or that kind of thing. Compared to the RAVPOWER, this one being like pretty steady at $60, this one being again like 43 to 50. Yes, you get a USB-C cable with this one. Maybe that makes it worth it if you're, paying $50 and you're gonna have to pay like $8 for a USB-C cable. If you can get your hands on either of these, that might be good value. This one not coming with a charger or cable, maybe you don't need to pay for those things because you already have them. So I think that makes this one better value. Finally, if you're looking probably for like the most expensive, best power bank that you can get, I haven't had a chance to test out Anker's new flagship 60 watt one. I'll link to it below though. That one was going for I think $160 though. So unless you need, 60 watt absolute fastest recharging, that would probably recharge in under 2 hours. That doesn't really make sense, I think, for value, especially when you consider, this one you can get for 43 to $50. And then finally, if you don't mind waiting, 24 hours to recharge, this one does have the micro USB recharging. So you could recharge it with that option too. So this might be a great option if you're just getting into a USB-C large capacity power bank. Now, when I was putting this review together, I thought, well, what options are there out there for non-USB-C large capacity power banks? Is there something out there that I could add to this mix that would that would kind of make sense to like a value option if you didn't need USB-C and you didn't mind waiting a long time. So I found a power bank. And I'm not going to really mention the brand or anything. I think it's just kind of like a generic Chinese power bank. It had like 4.5 stars out of 5 with over 100 reviews. And it was, I think, less than 25 bucks. I maybe paid 25 bucks Canadian. And it has 2 USB-A ports and then 1 micro USB port for charging. It has a light. So I tested this one and I was shocked. It tested at 56% of stated capacity. And it only recharged at 6.7 watts it should have been recharging at about 10.5 watts. So it recharged really slow. It took 13 hours to recharge at that 56%. If it was, going to recharge, if it actually gave you the full capacity and it recharged at the full capacity, it would probably take you 24 hours to recharge this power bank. Weighing it, first of all, you can see it's way smaller than the other plastic ones even. I don't even think that there's actually like 26,800 milliamp hours or 100 watt hours of capacity in here to begin with in terms of the cells. And so, I don't think that it's worth getting a power bank like this that is not USB-C in terms of how long it takes to recharge, but also just in terms of the cost. Like this one isn't going to be significantly cheaper than this one. And at least that like this is coming from a brand name, that you have a bit of future proofing with that USB-C. So at this point, I would probably steer clear of like large capacity power banks that don't have USB-C, because there's going to be more USB-C devices in the future. And because these large capacity power banks, you don't want to wait 24 hours or longer to have them recharge. And also just kind of steer clear of these no-name power banks that look cheap and even have some like good reviews, because who knows, they could be like bot reviews or something like that. Okay, I hope that you have found this video helpful. If you did, make sure to hit that like button and also make sure to subscribe for future reviews. We're always kind of reviewing a bunch of different things. We really like power banks, and we know that you guys do too. So if you have any specific power banks that you want us to review, let us know in the comments below. All right, thanks very much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.